Discovering Dinah, the miraculous journey of Jacob's daughter to divine redemption and restoration. In the days when the Israelites dwelt in the land of Canaan, amid the sands and mountains, there lived a young woman named Dinah, the daughter of Jacob and Leah. In this third year of Jehoiakim's reign, as the sun cast golden rays upon the encampments, Dinah yearned for adventure, her heart calling her to explore the world beyond the protective embrace of her family's tents. The echoes of her brother's laughter intertwined with the whispers of the Canaanite women, igniting a desire within her to forge connections and seek friendship among the daughters of the land. With a spirit full of youthful curiosity, one fateful day she ventured further than she ever had before, her steps light and her heart unburdened. Yet as she crossed the threshold of safety, an unseen shadow lingered, a realm where danger lurked. In that hour she encountered Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivite, a man of prominence. His gaze fell upon her, a spark of forbidden desire ignited, and in a moment of wrath and violence he seized her, casting aside her innocence and future. The pain of that unthinkable act plunged Dinah into a darkness that enveloped her like a thick fog. She was cast adrift in a sea of shame and isolation, a silence descending where cries for justice should have risen. Her brothers, Simeon and Levi, upon discovering their sister's plight, were consumed with righteous indignation. Their hearts burned with vengeance. They drew their swords and returned to Shechem city, their hands stained with blood as they killed both him and his father in a cunning deceit, avengers in a world tainted by malevolence. As they returned to their camp, the weight of their actions bore heavily upon their shoulders, and the echoes of their violence became entwined with the heart of their family. Back in the tents of Jacob, guilt and remorse filled the air, the atmosphere thick with unspoken truths. Dinah, now not only a victim but a bearer of wounds, began her arduous journey toward healing. She struggled with her identity, wrestling with the shadow of her trauma and the expectations imposed upon her by her culture. Her brothers shared in her agony, and as they faced the moral depravity of their vengeance, Dinah, with courage, urged them to seek repentance and reconciliation. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey. I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now, let's continue with what the Lord did next. Amid the ashes of their reckless reclaiming of honor, a flicker of hope ignited within Dinah's spirit. She turned her gaze heavenward, invoking the name of Yahweh, seeking understanding. "What plan do you have for me, O Lord?" she prayed, her heart heavy with the weight of unanswered questions. Would her story be one marred by shame forever, or would it echo with the notes of redemptive restoration? Standing at a daunting crossroads, Dinah contemplated the beauty of forgiveness against the dark specter of resentment. The walls of her family's tent symbolized both protection and confinement. Yet she sensed a stirring within, a divine promise intertwined with her lineage. Though her journey had brought her face to face with the remnants of trauma, she held on to a burgeoning belief that God could weave together the threads of her shattered story into something beautiful. Thus began Dinah's path, uncharted and filled with the anticipation of grace, faith, and redemption. As Dinah pondered her plight, the ripples of her brother's vengeance echoed in her spirit. The nights grew long, and the weight of silence nestled within the hearts of Jacob's clan, threatening to strangle their unity. Yet, amid the stillness, the Lord's voice emerged, gentle yet profound, as if calling her forth from the depths of her despair. One evening, while the sun dipped beyond the horizon, painting the sky with hues of crimson and gold, Dinah sat by the edge of the brook that flowed beside their encampment. The murmurs of the water held a melody of promise, a whisper of the Creator's love and restoration. She closed her eyes and surrendered her anguish into the stream, believing that God could reforge her broken heart. In that moment of vulnerability, the presence of the Lord enveloped her, bringing forth His peace. Visions of purpose danced in her mind, stirring her heart. She envisioned herself rising from the ashes of her pain, an ambassador of healing, one who would tell others of the unfathomable grace of God. She could see it clearly. She would not be defined by the shadows of her past. Dinah opened her eyes, emboldened and alive with inspiration. She gathered her brothers, summoning their attention under the vast heavens. "Simeon, Levi, hear me," she called, her voice a blend of authority and gentleness. "We are more than our deeds and the blood we have spilled. The Prince of Peace beckons us to walk in forgiveness rather than vengeance, to reclaim our family, not with swords, but with love." Her brothers exchanged glances, the weight of past actions beginning to stir within their hearts. Could redemption truly be theirs? Levi, the bolder of the two, stepped forward, a flicker of hesitation crossing his brow. "But Dinah, how can we forgive those who have wronged us so deeply?" Dinah met his gaze, her resolve unshakable. Forgiveness is a choice, not a feeling. It is the path that leads us toward healing, toward reclaiming our identity as God's chosen people. In forgiving, we reflect the character of Yahweh. At her words, something within Simeon stirred, an awakening of conscience. What if we faced the Canaanites again, but with peace rather than strife? Could we find a better way to coexist? Their conversation lingered in the evening air, a tapestry of heart and hope woven together under the stars. With each passing moment, the darkness that had loomed over them began to shrink as the light of understanding broke forth. In the days that followed, Dinah and her brothers, embarking on this newfound journey, took to neighboring tribes, extending the olive branch of peace to those who had once scorned them. They shared their story, the tale of sorrow transformed by grace. Piecing together shattered relationships, they began to build bridges where walls had stood firm. Yet, as hope blossomed with each encounter, shadows of doubt still loomed. Factions within their family questioned their intent, seeing only the scars of their actions. Rumors spread, and soon a fear laced with anxiety clouded their every step. Would this act of reconciliation ultimately lead them to their ruin? But Dinah stood firm, her gaze set upon the Lord. She clutched tightly to His promise that there is no wound He cannot heal, no past beyond redemption. Each act of kindness dispelled the murky fog that lingered in the hearts of those they approached. Unknown to them all, God's sovereign plan was unfolding, with layers yet hidden in the depth of His glory. Little did Dinah and her family know that their steps toward reconciliation were woven intimately into the greater narrative of deliverance and restoration, not only for themselves, but for generations to come. As Dinah continued bravely on her path of healing, even now, in the silence of the night, a promise lay veiled in shadow for her to discover. What awaited her beyond this journey of reconciliation? What greater purpose would God reveal through her unfolding story? In the dawn of a new day, the air was thick with expectation. Dinah awoke before the sun crowned the horizon, her heart stirring with anticipation. As birds heralded the morning with their melodious songs, she bathed in the presence of the Lord, petitioning for wisdom and strength. Finally, the arduous journey of healing lay ahead, but her soul felt anchored in faith. Surrounded by her brothers, Dinah felt a blend of courage and trepidation. "Today we approach the Canaanites once more," she declared, her voice resolute. "Let us walk in humility, but do not mistake our kindness for weakness.
We shall bear the weight of our newly forged intentions and reflect the heart of our God. Simeon and Levi exchanged glances, but nodded, seemingly convinced by her fervor. They prepared themselves to face the tribes yet again, putting aside their anger and hurt.
As they journeyed toward the village, Dinah sensed an undercurrent of tension, a whispered reminder from the Lord that events beyond their understanding were in motion. Upon arriving, they were greeted, not with swords or scorn, but with wary gazes. One of the elders of the Canaanites, a fierce man named Hamor, stepped forward. "Why do you come here, descendants of Jacob? Have you not spilled blood amongst us?" His voice pierced the air, yet a flicker of curiosity shone in his eyes. Dinah stepped forward, her heart racing. "Great Hamor, we seek harmony, not conflict. I come before you as a daughter of Jacob, the vow of peace resting on my lips. Our family has learned from the depths of sorrow, and we desire to walk a different path, one lined with grace." The words seemed to echo in the quiet spaces between them, and the gathering crowd leaned in, intrigued by the possibility of reconciliation. Hamor's expression softened, and he regarded her with new eyes. "If you seek peace, then let us hear your words. What do you propose?" Dinah took a deep breath, the weight of her family's past heavy upon her shoulders. "Let us engage in dialogue rather than strife. Let the seeds of understanding be sown among us. We may begin by sharing our stories, our pain and our hopes, and perhaps, together, we may forge a future where wounds heal rather than fester." As she spoke, a hush fell over the throng, and beneath the cloak of unease, the light of hope began to glimmer. And yet, in the watching shadows, discontent began to brew among the harsher members of the Canaanite tribes who clung to the old grievances, unwilling to relinquish their grudges. That evening, as they convened beside the brook where Dinah had poured out her anguish, she felt a stirring within her spirit. Unbeknownst to her brothers, a profound heaviness pressed upon her heart, as visions of the past danced around its edges. The moment of their father's blessing, the weight of his name, Israel. Must they too bear the scars of blood? Dinah reflected silently in prayer. O Lord, reveal to me your sovereign will through this conflict. What must we learn from this unfolding tale? As she knelt there in fervent supplication, a profound peace washed over her. She understood that peace would require more than words. It demanded an infusion of grace that could only come from above. Dinah rose, feeling renewed yet burdened, sensing that the world she sought to mend demanded a deeper revelation of love. And then came a whisper, soft yet potent. What if the path to healing was not for one, but for many? Dinah, you are called to do more than seek reconciliation. You will be a catalyst for transformation. Her heart raced with divine revelation. What awaited beyond the hill of reconciliation? What sacrifice was required for love to bloom anew? As the twilight settled around them, the shadows grew longer, weaving together the fabric of destiny. Dinah stepped forward into the light, her resolve strengthened, ready to embrace both the uncertainty and the promise of God's sovereign plan that was unfolding, an orchestration of hope that would resonate far beyond her own life. The sun dipped low as night embraced the land, casting gentle shadows across the group gathered by the brook. Dinah felt the weight of her brother's gazes, and within her a tempest of resolve and fear rumbled. If we are to rebuild these bridges, she thought, I must unearth the roots of our pain and sow a harvest of healing. Hamor turned to gather other elders of the Canaanites who had begun to approach, curiosity untangling their initial wariness. Dinah seized this moment, her voice clear and unwavering. "Let us speak of the truths we share," she began, "for history binds us more than it separates us."
The size of the crowd shifted as some leaned in while others hung back, uncertainty etched upon their faces. Simeon and Levi stood at her side, arms crossed, wary of old grudges surfacing. "I stand here before you, descendants of Hamor," Dinah continued, "not merely as the daughter of Jacob, but as a sister, a daughter of humanity. Our wounds may run deep, but they need not define us. Shall we bear our stories to one another, that we may know the depths of each other's hearts?" A murmur rippled through the crowd. Hamor paused, torn between skepticism and the faint echo of her sincerity. "What of the blood that has been spilled?" he asked, and shadows lingered in the depths of his voice. Dinah sensed a stirring of anger, yet she pressed on, drawing upon the inner strength she had forged in solitude. Each life lost is a wound that has scarred both our peoples. What is past cannot be changed, but the future remains unwritten. Let love be the ink upon the pages of our destiny. She raised her voice, fueled by the spirit that whispered within her, igniting hope that mingled with the evening air. "An honorable proposition indeed," an elder from among the Canaanites spoke out, "but who will sacrifice for peace?" At once a solemn hush fell upon the assembly, for the question echoed not only through their midst, but also deep within each heart. Dinah's spirit quivered as she pondered this truth. Would the collective sacrifice manifest itself in a deeper unity forged through understanding? In that moment of contemplation, Levi stepped forward, surrendering the anger that had shrouded him since their family's bloodshed. "I will stand with Dinah," he declared, "and bear the weight of this new covenant. If it is to peace, then let us all lay down our swords." A ripple of murmurs coursed through the crowd, admiration and disbelief mingling in the faces of the people. Hamor observed the furrows in their brows, the shifting of compassion battling reluctance. To take such a step, he pondered aloud, would require a trust that spans generations of strife. "Trust," Dinah interjected, "is a precious offering. Each of us carries burdens, hearts heavy with sorrow, yet lightened when we are known. Let us invest in one another, for the tapestry of our stories is only complete when woven together. This may cost us our pride, but it will grant us peace." As the men exchanged thoughtful glances, Dinah caught a glimmer of hope in their eyes. But just as the dawn hopes to break before the night surrenders, the edge of dark clouds loomed. A faction among the Canaanites stirred, restive, stirred by whispers of vengeance, unwilling to let bygones be forgotten. "There are those among us who do not seek peace," a voice cried from the shadows. It was a young man, his words laced with bitterness, his hand resting on the hilt of his sword. A tension soaked the air, thickening with the weight of his challenge. Hearts raced in the crowd, uncertainty resurfacing with urgency. Dinah's spirit surged. This was the defining moment. As she caught sight of their faces, a blend of fear, hope, and despair, she felt the presence of the Lord enveloping her, a burning within her heart igniting. "Brothers and sisters," she implored, "let us cast out the darkness that threatens to cloud our unity. The Lord's hand is upon us, calling forth a new chapter, a deeper trust, not through bloodshed, but through understanding." And thus, as night draped the land, the clash of intentions unveiled. Would they choose a path of reconciliation or ancestry's vengeance? Each soul stood at a precipice, beckoned toward the unfathomable depths of God's sovereign plan. But little did they know that within this fragile moment lay the seed of a great awakening, a revelation beyond their comprehension. What would become of Dinah and the fractured tribes? The Lord's purpose was drawing near, but only through the valley of decision would they find their way into the embrace of divine restoration. As the tension hung heavy in the air, Hamor raised his hand, silencing the murmurs that surged like waves upon the shore. "Speak, young Canaanite," he commanded, his voice echoing with authority. The young man stepped forth, the flickering torchlight illuminating his furrowed brow. "What of our honor, once tattered by the blood of your kin? Shall we lay aside our rightful fury and trust in mere words?" His challenge pierced through the unfolding peace like a sword drawn in the night. Dinah felt the weight of his accusation, as if it were directed at her own heart. "Brother," she breathed, her spirit longing for understanding, "what if the worth of our honor exceeds the blood we've spilled? What if it lies in our ability to rise above the past?" A murmuring conflict echoed through the assembly, as old wounds bared their fangs. But within the silence she sensed the subtle invitation from the heavens, urging her forward. Do we seek to repay hatred with hatred, or shall we make the choice to sow seeds of restoration? Levi stepped beside her, the fierce countenance of a warrior softened by the hand of mercy. "My brother," he spoke, turning to the young man and drawing from the well of his own anger, now cast aside. "I too have tasted blood, yet I stand here for a future unshackled from vengeance. For our people have trod upon each other's graves long enough. Is it not time to place the sword back into its sheath?" With each heart that listened, the air shifted, hope threading through the cracks of despair. It was then that Hamor, staring deep into Levi's eyes, felt a ripple of recognition. The stirrings of ancestral pain echoed in his own heart. "What shall ensure this trust you speak of? What guarantee can your family provide that the Canaanites will not suffer again? Let us craft a covenant, a bond sealed not by force, but by our mutual suffering and the desire for peace," Dinah implored, her voice unfurling like a banner. "We will share our histories, the pain that has bound us and the hopes that whisper for reconciliation. Let both our families lay down their burdens on this altar of unity." "An altar?" the young man scoffed. "What altar can appease the souls lost?" Yet even as he spoke, uncertainty swirled within him, battling against the righteous call for peace. "Let the altar of our hearts be our witness," Dinah replied firmly. "May it be a remembrance of our promises to abandon hatred and to cultivate love. Each story recounted will become a stone laid in this sacred ground, a foundation for those who come after us." As flickers of understanding illuminated faces before her, the winds of change began to whisper, palpable in the dusk around them. Eyes turned toward the heavens, as if searching for divine affirmation. What would their ancestors think? What legacy would they carve into history's pages? With a deep breath, the young man lowered his sword, caught between tradition and the allure of a new dawn. "I am but one among many," he admitted, his voice trembling with the weight of history. "But if the heart of my people can beat in unison with yours, let it be known, my sword shall find rest tonight." A collective sigh accompanied the release of tension, as hearts opened to the possibility of a collective healing. Hamor nodded, his expression a mixture of respect and cautious hope. "Then let us forge this bond, not merely by words, but by the lives we choose to lead henceforth." Yet as they gathered closer, united in purpose, a sudden chill swept through the crowd. In the distance, shadows stirred. A group of warriors emerged, their intentions cloaked in darkness and fury. Eyes widened and breaths stilled as the new threat loomed closer. The fragile peace they had begun to weave now dangled by a thread, and the question echoed through the very soul of Dinah. Could they embrace their calling amidst the clash of swords once again? as the night thickened, revealing the encroaching storm of division, a promise from the Lord beckoned. What awaited them on the path of faith?
Little did they know, this very moment was a stepping stone toward a covenant woven in the tapestry of God's divine plan, a plan that would reshape their very destinies and lay the groundwork for generations to come. The air trembled with an electric tension, and Dinah's heart raced as she caught sight of the warriors advancing with remorseless intent. Their armor glinted ominously in the dim light, and the cold steel of their weapons reflected the vulnerability of the moment. Instinctively, Dinah stepped between the two factions, her voice ringing out like a prophetess. "Wait! Let us not yield to the tide of anger that seeks to claim us all. We stand on the precipice of a new beginning, but it falters under the shadow of fear." Hamor, still gauging the intent of the warriors, raised his staff high. "Who approaches under the cover of darkness? Do you come as friends, or are your hearts filled with vengeance?" A figure stepped forward from the band, his brow set in fierce determination. "We are no friends of the children of Jacob. You have made your covenant, yet you tread upon the ashes of our kin. The blood spilled cannot be forgotten, nor will we allow your words to swindle our grief." Dinah's heart sank, for she knew that the bondage of past grievances could narrow their vision, blinding them to hope. "What if we choose to be the bearers of forgiveness?" she implored. "Would it not find its root in our shared suffering? The heart of my family aches just as yours does. We are all woven into this tapestry of loss." Levi, emboldened by his sister's words, raised his voice alongside hers. "Let us not be defined by our hurt, but rather by how we rise from it. If it is vengeance you seek, know that it can only lead to a cyclical despair. But if we offer grace, we may yet succeed in rewriting our shared story." The approaching warriors hesitated, their fierce expressions wavering in the face of an unexpected assembly. Each pulse of the night grew heavy with the weight of their decision. One among them, a woman with fiery eyes and a voice like thunder, stepped closer to Hamor. "Why should we trust the words spoken in the heat of a fleeting moment? Show us the fruit of reconciliation. Prove your intentions." "Then let the fruit be our lives lived in peace," Hamor replied, an earnestness emerging amidst the turmoil. "We invite you to witness not merely our words, but the covenant we will forge. Let us gather our people. Let our children see the yielding of swords and the crafting of bonds." It was then that Dinah fell to her knees, her heart crying out for the heavens. "O Lord, let this moment be a testament to your guiding hand. For even in strife, your promise lingers, teaching us that love surpasses all judgment. May our stories intertwine and spread joy through the generations." As she prayed, the ground beneath them seemed to hum with life, as if the very earth was recording a new beginning in the chronicles of time. The warriors exchanged glances, their hardened facades beginning to crack, replaced by the flicker of something new and unspoken. In this charged atmosphere of potential and divided histories, a hush fell over the assembly. Each soul could feel the stirrings of God's presence among them, weaving through the uncertainty and drawing them closer together. Then, in the midst of this fragile moment, Dinah sensed a divine revelation, compelling her to look beyond the urgent darkness surrounding them. There lay an unseen hand guiding her heart towards a promise yet to be fulfilled. The ancient prophecy echoed within her spirit. Indeed, all nations would one day gather under a banner of peace, knitted together by the threads of love unheard. As she rose from her knees, emboldened by this awareness, she whispered, "The task laid before us will not be easily won,
But in this sacred moment, we stand upon the threshold of something divine. Let us move forward into the dawn, knowing that each step taken in faith is a step towards God's sovereign plan. Caught between the memories of the past and the hopes of tomorrow, the hearts of many began to pulse with anticipation. And as shadows danced under the starlit heavens, they looked toward a future, uncertain yet promising, a future where brokenness could bloom and restoration would find its rightful place. What awaited them in this sacred mission would redefine their destinies and echo through the corridors of time into God's unfolding, magnificent plan. As the night deepened, a profound stillness enveloped the gathering, the air thick with the weight of choice and the presence of the Almighty. Dinah, heart swelling with a blend of hope and trepidation, observed the wavering resolve upon the faces of the warriors. Would they heed the call to peace, or would the cycle of vengeance ensnare them once more? "Let us speak of what binds us together," she said, her voice steady yet laced with the urgency of the moment. "Is it not our shared grief that makes us allies in this moment? Consider the scars that mark your hearts, as they do mine, a testament to humanity's frailty. Each loss is a thread that weaves into the greater tapestry of our existence. Shall we allow it to remain frayed, or shall we mend it together?" The woman with the fiery eyes, whose name was Tamar, clenched her fist. "And if your covenant is a mere ruse, do you understand the depth of our sorrow? Trust is not given lightly in a world marred by betrayal." Levi stepped forward, his voice resonant with passion. "Trust is forged in the crucible of sacrifice. Our family bears the weight of sins past. True repentance demands action. Let us lay down our arms and show you the fruit of our intentions." He extended his hand, fingers outstretched, embodying the gesture of peace. In that moment, the ground seemed to tremble anew, an echo of ancient ground where offerings were made in seminal faith.
The swirling tension reached a pivotal point as the warriors deliberated, their hearts wrestling like ships in a tempest. Dinah closed her eyes, her spirit lifting in prayer. "O Lord, grant strength to our voices. Let not the shadows of despair hide the light of your promise. Remember your servants who forged a path through the Red Sea. Might you likewise render a way through this anguish." At that moment, a shimmering light broke through the clouds, illuminating the assembly with divine brilliance. The temporal darkness lifted momentarily, revealing not just a pathway of potential, but the assurance of God's eternal presence. As the light settled upon the gathered, murmurs of awe rippled through the warriors. "We did not come to wage war," Tamar finally spoke, her voice softer now, "but to seek justice for our own. If you wish to stand united, then lead us toward that which is greater than pain, toward the promise of life intertwined." Hamor raised his arms, drawing everyone's attention once again. "Let it be known, tonight shall be marked in our memories as the night of new beginnings. Let our children witness this union, witnessing a covenant forged in the fires of grief, yet tempered by forgiveness." A ripple of agreement surged through the ranks of warriors, the metallic clatter of their armor suddenly sounding less threatening than hopeful. They began to draw closer, emboldened by a shared vision of what could be, a world reshaped through reconciliation. The night chorus of cicadas harmonized with the heartbeats of those assembled, each rhythm a plea for unity, interspersed with the singing of the stars above. And in that sacred convergence, Dinah felt the weight of heaven's gaze upon them, an unspoken acknowledgement of the moment. What if, her mind whispered, this is the beginning of a prophecy unfolding?
the gathering of nations not only to witness peace, but to thrive in the knowledge of the one who knits our lives together. Suddenly, a voice deeper than the night stirred within her spirit, pressing her to proclaim, "For even now I hear the whispers of the ancients echoing. The Lord will fulfill his promise through the sons and daughters who dare to hope. Let this be our dawn, for in the shadow of our past, the light of God's purpose shines ever bright." As the last words hung in the air, a breathless silence replaced the tumult, charged with anticipation for what God had orchestrated, and the pathway unfurling ahead remained cloaked in mystery, yet brimmed with faith and promise. What awaited them in their pursuit of reconciliation would not only redefine their present, but herald the dawn of a future generation, ignited by divine purpose waiting to be revealed. And so, under the canopy of night, the gathering found new resolve. The warriors, hearts softened by Dinah's words and the divine light that engulfed them, drew closer. It was as if the air sparkled with renewed hope, heavy with the promise of change.
Levi, emboldened, bowed his head and addressed the assembly once more. "Brothers and sisters," he began, "let us not forget the stories that bind us. Is it not written, 'Behold, how good and pleasant it is when brothers dwell in unity'?" Psalm 133:1. This is our moment to witness a unity that transcends our painful histories. Shall we not seek to live out this truth? A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd as Tamar, clutching her own heart, stepped forward. "Then let us sacrifice what we hold dear, our pain, our anger, for they no longer serve a purpose in this renewed alliance. But know this, our journey ahead will not be simple. Yet we must be steadfast, for the Lord himself walks with us." The warriors nodded, and the presence of the Almighty felt ever more palpable, like the gentle wind that freshly stirs the leaves of the olive trees. In the brightening twilight, hope began to feel tangible, each heart a faithful ember waiting to ignite. Then, as if the heavens affirmed their resolve, a distant sound, like the gentle rush of waters tumbling over stones, resonated through the air. It drew nearer, a melodic hymn rising in waves. Dinah turned towards the sound, a glimmer of inspiration filling her spirit. "Listen, the river flows freer when it meets the open sea. Let us be like water, yielding yet powerful. For if we truly seek unity, we must embrace the gifts each of us brings to this covenant." As if choreographed by the hand of God, the warriors turned toward each other, clasping arms and hands, forming a circle of strength and assurance. Dinah stood at the center, the embodiment of their shared grief transformed into collective hope. Her voice rose above the others, flowing with the strength of a relentless stream, echoing against the mountains surrounding them. "We allow the Lord's grace to wash over our sorrows, for in our unity we create a stronger bond. In our forgiveness we mirror His merciful love." And in that moment, wisdom flooded the air abundantly, as the warriors sought out those amongst them who had borne the deepest wounds. The men of Shechem and Jacob's sons exchanged stories of their loss, igniting an understanding born not merely of words, but of a sincerity forged in suffering. It was a raw exchange, one that carved away their animosity, revealing the soft flesh of shared humanity beneath. Yet, as dawn began to break beyond the horizon, heralding a new day, an unsettling whisper dismissed the chorus of unity. "What of our families left behind?" a young warrior questioned, apprehension lacing his voice. "What of those who still thirst for vengeance? Will their rage seek to unravel the covenant we established this night?" Dinah turned, her countenance radiant yet serious. "We must confront the shadows that haunt us. As it is written, 'Fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name, you are mine.' Isaiah 43:1.
Together, through faith and outreach, we bear the key to a new legacy. As the weight of her declaration hung in the air, a tangible tension crackled within the assembly. Each warrior sensed the turbulent winds sweeping toward them, consequences unbidden, waiting to ensnare them in doubt once more. What awaited them when they returned to their families, and how would the veils of secrecy unfold in the presence of unexpected foes? And so Dinah, in the thundering quiet of the dawn, felt the stirring of an unseen plan woven into the fabric of each life gathered there. A whisper caressed her heart. Only the Lord knows the path this night shall carve, the legacy of forgiveness and reconciliation sharpened through trials untold. But the unfolding of His sovereign purpose lies in your hands as you step forward in trust. And with an unwavering spirit burdened by both joy and scrutiny, Dinah prepared to guide them all toward a destiny shrouded in divine mystery, a promise waiting for revelation. As the first rays of sunlight pierced through valleys and hilltops, warming the assembly with a gentle glow, the weight of anticipation hung palpably in the air. Levi stepped forward, his face illuminated by the dawn's first light. Let us not linger in fear, my brethren, for we are at the crest of a new beginning. The shadows of our past are but fading echoes in the presence of our Creator. The warriors drew closer, emboldened by Levi's words, yet the lingering question of their families remained like a specter among them. Could this fragile peace they sought withstand the storm of discontent among their kin? As if sensing the unspoken peril, Dinah lifted her voice once more, her heart burning with a fierce conviction. Each of you carries not only your own burdens, but those of your families. We must return together, a united force, reflecting God's forthcoming glory. With a collective nod, they vowed to face whatever awaited them. Let us return and mend what has been torn, Tamar added, her voice steady as a beloved chorus. For God has made us instruments of restoration, appointed to bring forth His purposes. Yet even as they pledged to unify, a storm brewed on the horizon, darkening the skies above Shechem. In the distance, figures loomed like clouds gathering before rain, those who had not yet embraced the covenant of reconciliation. After all is said and done, will our resolve stand against the tide? One young warrior mused, his brow furrowed with uncertainty. What if they reject our peace and seek vengeance instead? Dinah stepped forward, her gaze unwavering, embodying the courage of a lioness. The Lord our God has promised, I will contend with those who contend with you. Isaiah 49:25. We carry His light into the darkness. Let us trust that He has gone before us and prepared our way through this trial. As they set out forthwith toward their homes, the path ahead bore the weight of uncertainty. With each step, the warriors invoked the blessings spoken over them, prayers draping their hearts in protective garments. Yet even amidst their resolve, whispers of doubt crept through the fabric of their faith. Arriving at the edge of Shechem, they perceived a tension in the air, a pulse of conflict thrumming through the very ground beneath them. The men and women of Shechem gathered, eyes narrowed, voices raised in anxiety and fear. What are these men of Jacob seeking? Have they come to reclaim their honor through bloodshed? Proclaiming that they came not as avengers but as peacemakers, Levi raised his voice above the throng, declaring, "We do not come as enemies but as brothers, seeking the restoration of trust that was lost among us. As it is written, make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace." Ephesians 4:3. Yet within the crowd, resentment flared like a wildfire, and harsh words echoed threats of retaliation.
The tension reached a breaking point, anger mingling with fear. And just as chaos was about to erupt, a voice called from the rear, strong and steady. "Stop!" It was Shechem, son of Hamor, who stepped forward, his expression clouded by indecision. Do we not remember that anguish once cloaked our hearts? May we be granted the courage to embrace the unexpected grace of reconciliation. In this moment, unity may lead us beyond our past and into the promise of a greater future yet unseen. Amidst the swirling storm of emotions, the brewing conflict shifted, and Dinah seized the moment. With an inspiring blend of sincerity and love, she stepped into the center of the gathering. Understand that forgiveness transforms the heart, healing wounds from within. What great act of vengeance can ever bring peace like an act of love? As the words of Dinah hung between them, the atmosphere felt charged with divine promise, the very breath of the Almighty urging their hearts toward the light of hope. But would they accept this call for unity, or would the chains of vengeance drag them down the path of destruction once more? In that fraught pause, a collective breath held. The fate of many lay on the precipice. Dinah, sensing the movement of the Spirit, whispered to herself, "Lord, reveal thy sovereign purpose in this moment, for only you know the journey we must undertake to fulfill your ordained plan." And as she stood before her people, a sacred mystery loomed, beckoning the unfolding of their destiny through faith unmeasured and the call to divine reconciliation. The stage was set, but would they heed the call? As the tension crackled in the air, Dinah stood resolute, her heart a beacon of courage amidst the swirling doubts. "Brothers and sisters," she proclaimed, her voice steady, "we stand at a significant threshold. If we are to accept the burden of the past, let us also embrace the promise of what could be."
This is not merely about forgiveness. It is about creating a legacy of peace for generations to come. The assembly hushed, divided yet intrigued. The shadow of animosity loomed, yet a glimmer of hope flickered within the hearts of those present. Shechem, inwardly fighting his turmoil, raised his hand, an act of peace that seemed to echo din rather than strength. What shall we do with the wounds we bear? Can mere words bridge this chasm of history? Dinah stepped forward, the weight of their shared grief heavy upon her shoulders. We must acknowledge these wounds, not as burdens that weigh us down, but as shared experiences that weave our stories together. How can we begin to heal if we refuse to acknowledge the scars? Levi, standing with her, nodded with fervent determination. Let us share our stories, not to point fingers, but to illuminate the way toward understanding. Each tale is a thread woven through the fabric of our existence, binding us more tightly than we realize. As unity hung in the balance, a murmuring began among the warriors. One young man, emboldened by Dinah's words, stepped forward. "I too carry the pain of loss. Will you, the descendants of Jacob, reveal your intentions beyond words?" Dinah met his gaze, the sincerity in his eyes stirring compassion within her. Our intention is love, a love that acknowledges our past, yes, but also looks forward to a future. We offer no concealment. Rather, we lay bare our hearts before you. Choose with us to forge a bond that thrums with hope. At this newfound call for justice through reconciliation, murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly. Tamar, now emboldened, echoed Dinah's sentiment. The path ahead may not be clear, but standing together, balancing our sorrow with grace, we can tread upon the shadows that threaten us. Let us choose one another, embracing our shared humanity. Hamar, observing the stirring in the crowd, felt a whirlwind of emotions rise within him. What you propose is radical. You wish to create peace, yet carry the history of bloodshed upon your shoulders. Why should we believe this won't simply end in more violence? Dinah's heart surged, rising to meet the challenge. Because we are willing to be the sacrifice. Love requires sacrifice, and though we have each seen horrors, we must choose to forgive, building bridges where once there were burning embers. In that moment of profound vulnerability, the rawness of her words disarmed the crowd. Shechem felt an awakening within him, the question of his lineage battling with the call for unity within his heart. What if we too were to share our stories and burdens with you, to unearth the roots of animosity and plant seeds of understanding? A silence wrapped around them, a sacred stillness judging the decision ahead. A pact, then, Dinah suggested, her voice infused with heavenly purpose. Let us share our histories. Let pain give way to healing, ensuring that future generations embody this grace.
Around her, heads began to nod, hearts drawn to the call for a new beginning. The warriors murmured agreement, and hope surged to the forefront, replacing the heaviness that once burdened their souls. Yet, just as resolution seemed attainable, the whisper of uncertainty lurked in the shadows. How can we be sure that the peace you offer will endure beyond this moment? Called a voice from the throng, tinged with skepticism. Levi, feeling the weight of the moment, replied with firm assurance. The choice to embrace peace lies before us all, but it begins with trust. Let us manifest this trust through our actions, proving that we shall not return to the cycle of vengeance. As they stared critically at each other, Dinah's heart soared toward heaven, praying fervently for a guiding light in the encroaching darkness. God, reveal your will through our lives. We yearn to be your instruments of peace. May we forge our fates together in unity. In the quiet that followed her prayer, a shift occurred. The assembled warriors each began to share their tales of loss, openly recounting the scars of hatred and fear, stitching together the fabric of their grief anew. As the painful stories intertwined, connection blossomed where division once reigned. The light of dawn began to shimmer on the horizon, casting a divine glow over the assembly. In sharing our truths, we find common ground, Tamar spoke, her voice radiating a spirit of unity. Our scars can weave a tapestry of hope where future generations will triumph over despair. And there, as the first light of dawn broke, the promise of God's divine purpose glimmered. Each warrior felt their hearts stirred, the winds of change whispering the sweet notes of hope, foretelling the birth of a sacred promise. Together, they looked beyond the immediate turmoil toward a brighter horizon, a collective path forward into the embrace of God's unfailing grace. With hearts swelling and firm resolve, Dinah turned to her people and their Canaanite kin. We stand not only as descendants of Jacob and Hamor, but as pilgrims on the journey toward God's reconciliation. Let us step into this new chapter together, bound by the threads of trust, honoring our stories, and forever weaving new narratives into existence. And as the sun climbed higher in the sky, illuminating the age-old divide between them, Dinah knew the truth. God was present in their reconciliation, unfolding a miraculous story destined to resonate throughout generations. What seemed like impossibility transformed through faith into a testament of love, their collective future illuminated in the light of His sovereign plan. The gathering shifted, the once tentative warriors now clasping arms and hands, knitting together their lives, wrapped in the tapestry of newfound hope. With every heartbeat, they took a step closer to the promise that awaited them, a promise not only for their families, but for every generation to come. With hearts swelling and firm resolve, Dinah turned to her people and their Canaanite kin. We stand not only as descendants of Jacob and Hamor, but as pilgrims on the journey toward God's reconciliation. Let us step into this new chapter together, bound by the threads of trust, honoring our stories, and forever weaving new narratives into existence. And as the sun climbed higher in the sky, illuminating the age-old divide between them, Dinah knew the truth. God was present in their reconciliation, unfolding a miraculous story destined to resonate throughout generations. What seemed like impossibility transformed through faith into a testament of love, their collective future illuminated in the light of His sovereign plan. The gathering shifted, the once tentative warriors now clasping arms and hands, knitting together their lives, wrapped in the tapestry of newfound hope. With every heartbeat, they took a step closer to the promise that awaited them, a promise not only for their families, but for every generation to come.
And thus, in this defining moment, as they surrendered to the will of the Lord, Dinah witnessed the blossoming of divine restoration, affirming within her heart that indeed God works all things for good for those who believe. Now, dear friends, take a moment to reflect on this profound journey of faith. Choose to share your own stories of redemption and grace, understanding that the divine plan stretches far beyond our limited sight. Don't wait even one more second. Subscribe immediately to stay anchored in God's Word and not miss the next powerful biblical stories that are destined to change lives. Leave a like now so that this truth can spread like wildfire through the algorithm of hope. Share your spiritual reflections in the comments. How has this tale touched your heart and impacted your faith journey? And remember, this is the moment to help spread biblical truth. Share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's promise of love and reconciliation in their own lives. Let's transform hearts together.